primary results from San Francisco, there is hope. There is hope that that left-wing woke city just kicked out their crazy district attorney, Chesa Boudin. Now, even the liberals have had enough of the smash-and-grab robberies we've been showing you. I mean, they're sick of it. You see them all the time. San Francisco has been plagued with crime. Quality of life is in the pits. Also, the mass shoplifting sprees that people go on with no fear of arrest, and the homelessness and the open drug use, it all became too much, just too much. And even a liberal whack job like Chesa Boudin, who had such an interesting backstory. Chesa, his parents were radicals and criminals. That actually worked in his favor, believe it or not, at one point in San Francisco. Not anymore. He has been recalled rather resoundingly. Let's take a look at the results. Special week, 60% of the folks voted to kick him out. And remember, in San Francisco, it's overwhelmingly Democratic. In fact, I think just 7% of the voters there are Republican. So this is good. This is very good. So Boudin, he was a crazy radical. He was one of those guys, cops are bad, criminals are good, no bail, defund the police. He was encouraging all of that. He's not the only one, though. There are district attorneys across the country who share this radical mindset. They are everywhere, and we hope they noticed what happened in San Francisco, and they will either, well, hopefully both smarten up and toughen up. And we need that here in New York City. We got a guy named Alvin Bragg. He's the new district attorney for New York County. And folks, he seems, quite frankly, forgive me, a little bit nuts, okay? His first day on the job, he lets everybody know that this happened to him. It's irrelevant, but he sends a memo to everybody who works for him. Growing up in Harlem in the 1980s, I saw every side of the criminal justice system from a young age. Before I was 21 years old, I had a gun pointed at me 6 times. I had a knife to my neck, a semi-automatic gun to my head, and a homicide victim on my doorstep. All right. Last year, I had perhaps the most sobering experience of my life, seeing the aftermath of a shooting directly in front of our home as we walked together past yellow crime scene tape, seemingly countless shell casings, and a gun just to get home. Well, you might think this would make him, I don't know, tough on crime. No, it made him the opposite. In that same memo, he came up with all kinds of new rules and what we're going to prosecute and what we're going to not prosecute. Armed robbery. As long as the gun does not go off, all right? You don't have to make it about the gun, all right? It can be made a lesser crime, perhaps even a misdemeanor if the gun doesn't go off. Maybe we can look past this. Also, resisting arrest. Resisting arrest actually became, no, we're not charging anybody with resisting arrest. So what do? We incentivize these guys to run away from the cops and fight the cops. You know what Alvin Bragg and so many of these guys are pushing? The myth, and it is a myth, of mass incarceration. You've heard the phrase, right? What does it really mean? They love saying it.
The system of mass incarceration in this nation is a shame to a nation that is the land of the free. We as corrections officials should be apologizing for our role in mass incarceration.
Join us, join our community, and help us fight mass incarceration.
It's a policy failure. It's a moral failure. We need to address this crisis. We need to dismantle mass incarceration.
It's a total myth. There is no such thing as mass incarceration. Go try to find the video of hundreds of people being arrested. You couldn't even find that during Black Lives Matter summer. This is a country where we still have due process, and people are charged individually, occasionally with 1 or 2 others, but individually. This is not Egypt. You ever see the films where they have 80 guys in one jail cell and they all go on trial at the same time? No, we don't have that here. Despite what Chesa Boudin and his friends have convinced themselves about America, I believe they hate America. I really do. And on the way out the door, again, his own personal sob story that he tried to make everybody else's problem.
I grew up with 2 sets of parents. I grew up in 2 different worlds, right? One immersed in all of the opportunities of privilege, and another shackled to a existence mired in degradation and humiliation, one known to far too many Americans because of our addiction to caging human beings.
Addiction to caging human beings. His parents were involved in the murder of police officers. Police officers. His parents went to jail for the murder of police officers and a security guard in the 1981 Nyack, New York Brinks robbery. This really happened, all right? And by the way, the other set of parents, they were members of the Weather Underground. Bill Ayers, noted compatriot of Barack Obama. Bill Ayers, who's believed to have participated in the bombing of the Pentagon in 1972. He spoke about this publicly. Bill Ayers, the adoptive father, really, of Chesa Boudin. And what did he say? I don't regret setting bombs. I feel we didn't do enough. Interesting. He said that on September 11th, 2001. And all Chesa can think of is not the dead cops, not the community that elected to, I think they had some idea that they would keep a modicum of safety. No, all the heartache that happened to him.
Few prosecutors have had their own lives as directly touched by incarceration as Boudin has.
Since before I can remember, my parents have been incarcerated. In fact, my earliest memories are going through steel gates, waiting in lines at metal detectors, just to be able to see my parents, just to be able to give them a hug.
It's really tragic that your parents chose to participate in that horrible robbery that resulted in the death of cops and security guards, human beings. And it's very satisfying that this joke of a district attorney has been tossed out, even in San Francisco. 60% of the voters there have voted to recall him. Now, what does Joe Biden make of all this? Joe Biden was asked, hey, what does this mean? It's the Republicans' fault. Democrats too, and the cops. Yeah, he blames the cops. Listen.
I think the voters sent a clear message last night. Both parties have to step up and do something about crime as well as gun violence. And I sent, as you recall, with the first major bill we passed, we gave the states and localities billions of dollars to have, and encourage them to use it to hire police officers and reform the police department. Very few have done it. In addition to that, I sent to Congress a request for $300 million in this year's budget to deal with hiring cops, to retrain cops, as well as to make sure they are adequately dispersed around the communities. It's time they move. It's time the states and the localities spend the money they have to deal with crime, as well as retrain police officers, as well as provide for more community policing. It's time to get on with doing that, and that's what I think the message last night from the American public was in all the primaries.
Typical Democrat career politician. I've got money for the problem, and we're calling for reform. You saw all those videos. We see them every day, the smash and grabs, the mass shoplifting, the Minneapolis police station on fire. This isn't about money. This is about respect. This is about backing law enforcement. This is about not taking the side of the crazy people. This is about rejecting Black Lives Matter and Antifa. And he won't do that. This is not about money. This is about respect.